I came home and I took the pregnancy test, and because I was on birth control, and so I was expecting, and it never happened, and I took the test, and I came out of the bathroom bawling my eyes out, and Rob came back to me and he asked me what it said, and I told him, and I just remember him giving me a kiss on the forehead, and he told me everything was going to be okay, because I was scared, really scared. I went to like my sonograms by myself for a little while, and when we were going to the one to find out if it was a boy or a girl, of course he wanted to come, and he was hoping for a boy. And like the lady didn't say anything during the sonogram at all. And next thing I know, she's like, well, we're going to sit you in a room because the doctor needs to come in and talk to you. And I was really worried because I'm like, well, what would they need to talk to me for, you know? And they came in and they're like, well, there's just something not right with her colon. And we're going to have to refer you to Pittsburgh, to the McGee Women's Hospital to be seen. And the lady walked out of the room, and I was like so calm when she was telling me all this, and then she left. And I remember turning and looking at him, and I just broke down, and I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with our baby? Like, they don't send you there for no reason. Like, Pittsburgh is where they send kids with a lot of problems. And we went down to the McGee Women's Hospital to have a sonogram, and they looked at the colon, and I saw the lady, like, looking at her heart. And like she was putting something down, and I was like, what are you seeing? Because I know you're seeing something. They did another sonogram, and I was getting out of the sonogram room, and I just see Rob tearing up, and he has the bags in his hand, and the lady puts her arm on my shoulder, and she's like, we're gonna admit you. And I was like, what? And she goes, and this is 2 months early, you know, we knew she was gonna come a month early because they were planning for me to go down to Pittsburgh to have her early, but like 2 months, I was like, I'm so not ready for this. I couldn't hold her or anything. And I think that was so hard, because everybody gets to hold their baby when they first come out. You know, she was just strapped in her little NICU box. And then they were taking her over to the Pittsburgh Children's Hospital, so like I couldn't see her. They wouldn't let me go because they couldn't get my blood pressure down. When she first came out, I remember Rob, like we heard her cry, and he just looks at me, and he started crying, and he goes, oh my gosh, that's our baby. He goes, she cried, that's good, right? And I said, yeah, that's very good. She had her left kidney taken out, and she had all the fluid drained from her abdomen to me because of the whole colon issue, because it turned out there was just no hole formed for her to be able to go to the bathroom. There was one gentleman that came into my work, his name was Larry. He works for Howard Hanna, and he told me about this golf tournament that he goes to, and that it's to help you know, parents that have kids in the NICU, and because it's so difficult and when they can't, you know, be with their kids. And I was just like, at first I was kind of like, oh, you know, there's no such thing as that. Like, there aren't people out there like that. You called me, and I remember telling you a story on the phone, and like I was just like pacing through my house because I was like so like it was still hard to believe, like all that you were telling me, like when you were like, well, don't worry about gas money for now on, because you had asked me, like, what was one of the hardest things? I'm like, well, we drive up there and home so often that, like, half our money ends up going to gas. And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll pay for your gas from now on. You will not have to pay for gas to go see your baby anymore. And I was almost like in shock. Like, I just started crying, and I'm like, like, are you serious? Like, I couldn't believe it. I think you could start to tell that, like, I just really wanted to be up there with her, and I'm like, we just couldn't afford it at the time to be able to, you know, to do that. And that's when you talk to me and you're like, how much are your bills a month? And I'm like, what? And you're like, how much are your bills a month? And when I told you, you're like, then don't worry about it. You're like, go be with her, and, you know, and I just, like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can be with my baby. And so, like, the last month I got to be with her all the time, which was great. You know, she was starting to get better. She was starting to look better. Like, I held her so much. Like, I appreciate everything that you kind-hearted people. Like, there's so many people out there that have to go through this more than I think people realize. And it's probably the hardest thing that anybody ever has to go through. Watching their small child have all these problems, and all you want to do is make it all better. And you want to be with them, and sometimes that's hard. And if it weren't for people like you, and for people like Ryan and his wife, who came up with an organization to make it a little easier on what they really, to the probably worst extent, know what it's like to go through. Like, I'm beyond grateful. Grateful doesn't even express it, and thank you just doesn't seem like enough. Because if it weren't from the help from people that donate and help in these things, and if it weren't for somebody like Ryan and Katrina coming up with the organization to help people, like, we would have struggled, and I never would have got to spend that month with my baby and just be able to be for her, be there for her all the time.
Great.
And it's the best thing ever.